guest here is joining us all the way from London. I think you're about 6-7 hours ahead of us or something like that. So he's doing us a huge favor being on the show. So we appreciate you big time, man. And David, we'll be talking all about you here in no time. But first, what we like to dive into is what we call our LinkedIn moment. So this is where I get to read something positive from LinkedIn. And if what I like to say to everybody is, hey, look, if you want to post something really cool on LinkedIn, great. If it's positive, there's a good chance I'll share it. And if you don't want me sharing it, don't be my friend. So works out that it's that simple. The other thing that I'm really bad at is I always forget to say thank you to Magazine Jukebox for making sure that this happens. They are our sponsor for the show, and we appreciate you guys and everything that team is doing for us. Full transparency, I am the CEO, so I did give some direction there. Okay, so the first LinkedIn post is actually he's one of our 1099 subcontractors for Magazine Jukebox, and he posted. No, I take that back. I'm sorry. This is a gentleman from Instagram. I got the David's wrong here, but he's actually our friend over there at Insperity, and he says, "I'm thrilled to announce that the latest addition to our company workforce, Baby Maxon, this tiny human, has already shown incredible potential in disrupting nap schedules and demanding attention of their with his adorable cries. Hey man, congratulations. Being dad is the best reward, I feel like, and being the it's the best hat I wear, is being a husband and being a dad. So congratulations." All right, now the next one, on to our second and final LinkedIn post. This is actually posted from Edward Frint. He is a VC investor and general partner at KC Rise Fund. Fund 3 is live. Could not be more excited to continue KC Rise Fund work with our friends, mentors like Darcy Howe and Liam Riley, along with our advisors, Adam Blake, and he lists a bunch of other people. It looks like that they got their fund up and running. And when we dive into this conversation with David, I think David and I both know a thing or two about raising capital. So so we know how hard that is. And but man, it's exciting to see them do so well. So anyways, that concludes our LinkedIn moment. Again, if you want to be on our podcast through LinkedIn, make sure you post positive stuff and I'll try to grab it and pull it down for you. So anyways, hey, now the most important time of the show. It's about my friend David Birch here over at Endurance Zone. And let me just kind of go into a little bit of background first. David, thanks so much for being on the show. Excited to have you.
Yeah, pleasure. Really excited to be here, buddy.
Yeah, people are going to pick up on your accent right away. So this show's going to be a home run. So you'll be fine. Feel free to cuss. It's fine. No, I'm just kidding. PG-13 always. So David and I, we connected because we've been working with a mutual, colleague, and then of course one of the employees over at Magazine Jukebox got connected with them, and then our buddy Brian, who is one of our subcontractors, he connected us over with you guys, and Endurance Zone is a marketplace, a sports marketplace for commercial businesses, and David, I want to make sure that I'm giving you all the time to talk about your company. So share with us just a little bit about Endurance Zone, and then we're gonna rip into who David Birch is and why you even came up with this thing.
Sure. So, as I say, pleasure to be here, mate. Really looking forward to this. So, so Endurance Zone is officially the world's largest sports rewards and engagement platform. So, we'll probably go into the story a little bit more, but effectively we supply white labeled, bespoke loyalty platforms for USA Cycling, US Military Endurance Sports, Active Network, British Cycling, governing bodies, gyms, subscription model businesses, NHL teams, Major League Baseball teams all over the world.
Man, that's awesome. So Endurance Zone has been open for what, 5 years? You started this 5 years ago?
Yeah. So started it 5 years ago, but we spent silent assassin, 2.5 years building it behind the scenes without a product to launch. And we actually launched the first iteration, our first white label platform in September 21. And then we signed our first client for 3 years in September 21. And then it's just been rolling since then.
That's awesome. So for those of you who don't know or listening and viewing the show, Dave and I are both founders, and we understand how excruciating it is to build something and not having any revenue coming in, and you're building and building and building, and there's that old saying, it's like, just go live, just get it out there. Like, you've got to go live. And that turn on moment, September for you, what was that like for you?
Do you know what? It is amazing, actually. And I wish, actually, and you'll get this as a founder. I think that first moment is the piece that stays with me the most. It was like that, we now have a legitimate business and people can see it.
Yeah.
Like, it's out there now. And actually, I think as founders, or as anybody in a startup place, you now sign contracts and you go and go. And sometimes you forget to celebrate those because you're on to the next one and the next one and the next version 2, version 3, version 4. So taking it back to that first client was like, wow, actually someone's also willing to pay for this.
Yeah.
We did something right, so, and
Yeah.
it happened very quickly. So it's a magical moment, actually.
Well, and like you said, they also not only believed in it, but then they signed a multi-year contract with you, which is incredible out the gate, to have that. So let's talk about a little bit about your background, because, clearly people are going to buy into David Birch. They want to know who you are. And so what, tell us about your, maybe we could go back a little bit. I think you had some experience in rugby, maybe.
A little bit.
Little bit. So to share with our guests or share with our listeners about your experience there.
Yeah, do you know what? That's really interesting, because people will ask me from an entrepreneurial point of view, what drives you? Because so many people will start a business and it fail, or others will have an idea and won't go with it. And actually, I pull everything back into my sporting background. So I started playing rugby when I was 7 years old. I was a big, boisterous kid. Parents went, let's we need to burn this energy off. Let's stick him into rugby. I kind of went through a very great club where I had all of my friends joined at the same time, and these are still my best friends now. And actually, I've employed some of those people. They work for me because I trust them and they're good at their job. But I was lucky enough to go through a setup where I played at a really good standard. I represented my country 3 times. And, I take all that kind of leadership, team building, good days, bad days, hard knocks, celebrations, and you can pivot that from a sporting background into a business world. And this is not for everybody, but for me, I am the most competitive person. And this isn't about cash. This isn't about money. This is about how big can we get this? How much now? It's about how much value can we actually add to our clients? And should we throw up that Hail Mary and go for the MBA? Yeah, go on then. Let's go. Let's see if we can go with the MBA. And now it's that competitive. I want everybody because I'm just a competitive person. And I think that's actually what drives a lot of the business. And most people in our business, I mean, my co-founder, Todd, he's a 29 times Ironman. We are all competitive. Yeah, he did Eagleman Ironman the other weekend. Like, he's 55. He's a beast. Like, he's a beast.
And wait, how old is he?
55.
Gosh dang, I'm 40, man. He puts me to shame.
So I was at his house. So I'll jump back and forth between the US. He'll do the same. So I was at his house, and I've got jet lag. Right, I've come in from London. We've landed. We've celebrated a couple of beers. Nice to see each other. Anyway, so I wake up. It's like 4 a.m. I'm like, I'm up, right? So I was like, I'm gonna go down to his basement, just crack on. So I get down to the basement. Oh, here's. I walk into his gym, and there he is, having done a 17-mile bike ride, now on a 20-mile run, and it's 4 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, oh.
These people that are doing this 4 a.m. workout stuff, like, oh, wake up at 4:30 in the morning. Who, like, The Rock always posts, like, oh, you got to get up at 4:30, or Mark Wahlberg, all these, famous people. And now with Todd doing this, like, guys, look, go pound sand, okay? Let's move it to like 6 a.m., okay? For some of us who have kids.
Not making us feel bad.
Yeah, exactly, man. I'm tired of this. Like, if I wake up at 5:30 in the morning to go work out, now all of a sudden I'm like looking at, like, dang, I'm like an hour behind the curve already because of these guys. So yeah, they and I don't really mean that. They're encouraging. I think it's awesome. So okay, so rugby, transition life into entrepreneurship. When did you know you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Was that when you're a kid, or was it a transition out of rugby?
No, I think it was the transition out of rugby. So I ended up injuring myself. So I've had back surgery. I had two discs removed, my spine fused, and very much couldn't play anymore. I actually went and joined a a teamwear, but I think Under Armour teamwear. So in the UK, we have something called Samurai, which is a big rugby brand. They supply our Premiership clubs, and they said, "Look, come and be a sales rep for us, right?" So I kind of went into sales, and I was kind of sat there going, "This is not a hard business, right? You're getting your stuff out of China. I'm doing all the hard work of selling this stuff and saying, okay, well, here's your sizing, like." Surely, you have these moments where you're like, I could do this, right, myself. And then I was there for like 4 or 5 years, and I ended up going, do you know what? I can't be 50 and swapping war stories about how I used to be good at rugby and all this kind of stuff in clubs. So I ended up going to a recruiter called Michael Page, which is second largest in the world. Most people know them. And I said, look, I'm a sales guy. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a startup. I'm the guy that will go out there and win business. I'm looking for a new job. And I ended up going into, and they said, come and see us. And on one day, I spent 7 hours with them. And they said, have you thought about recruitment? And I was like, no. And they said, well, we think you'd be good here. So I interviewed with the manager. She went, look, our director's upstairs. Do you want to interview with him? I said, yeah, sure. Go on, let's do it. So I interviewed with him. Then I did role play. Then the managing director happened to pop in for a coffee, and they were like, do you want to meet him? I was like, yeah. And I left with a job on the same day after 7 hours of interviews. And then I spent years in recruitment, managing teams, recruiting senior finance people into Deloitte and KPMG and PwC and people like that. But again, it was that kind of, I was driven to succeed, and I won lots of different awards for being sort of best sales team and stuff. It sounds really braggy, but it was kind of like, I'm just built that way that I'm super competitive. You say you're in competition with that team, I'm like, great, we're going to smash that team. And a lot of that comes from having a good set of people around you. But if you're that way and you're supportive and you're leading from the front and you're dragging them, the rest of the team will come with you.
Yeah.
And that's what creates a successful team. So it went from sort of rugby competitive into selling rugby kit and thinking, I could do this. Then I fell into recruitment. And it was at that moment where I'd actually gone and had my back surgery. And the doctor said to me, look, you're not running, you're not playing rugby anymore. Go and join British Cycling, our governing body, or Swim England. Low impact, low modality. That's all you're going to be able to do. They're bound to give you loads of benefits and discounts on bikes and stuff. And that was the moment where I went to join, and I was like, unless I want a cycling magazine or a holiday, there's nothing here. Like, I was expecting bikes and helmets and glasses, and there wasn't. And it literally, in hospital, in my bed, I had a notepad next to me, and that's where I was like, yeah, I'm going to start this business now. Like,
Wow. Yes.
I've seen a niche, I've seen a problem, and I've got a solution that no one else has thought about, and I'm going to go and do it.
I love that. So your napkin sketch was in a hospital. That's insane. And
It was on the back of a cycling magazine.
yeah,
Literally.
that's nuts. Which is great because we love magazines. We just like them digitally over here. But but it's so what I love about this is that, one of the most important things I try to share with other founders or people that are wanting to start up a company is that how important your team is. Like, you've got to have an ironclad team. And what you were talking about, the 7-hour interview. And I remember I was talking to my buddy Nate, and he's over at Amazon now. So he was all part of the startup world for a long time. And then he ended up getting this crazy offer and deal with Amazon. They kind of do that. And so he took it, and him and we were chatting, and he was like, do you know the Amazon process, the interview process? And I said, no, I have no idea. I have no idea what that's like. And he goes, well, first of all, it's 8 hours. And I was like, okay, well, first of all, that's insane. And so then he was like, he goes, and when you interview with 6 different people. Now, one of them has veto power, but that one person is the only person who knows that they have veto power to say this person's not getting hired. All the rest have no idea who it is, and they'll never know who it is. And so they all go, and each person that interviews are from different departments and different, different skill sets that come in and interview. They're not like necessarily managers. Maybe they're just a supervisor. And then at the end of it, you're basically said, okay, thanks. And then you go on your way. And then they put everything together, and they're looking for that. First of all, did the main person veto them? Are they done? And if they don't, then they have to put like this scorecard together. So I may be botching a little bit, but that whole veto thing was insane. But it just reminded me of like what you're saying, that 7-hour interview those things are brutal. I don't think I would ever do that to a staff member. I don't, I
Yeah.
don't.
So they it wasn't a usual process. It was like a three-stage process. You do manager, you come back and you see a director, and you do a role play. Where in recruitment it was kind of like they pretended that they were the client, and you came in and said, "Oh, you're recruiting for this role." You try and tease that information out, lots of open questions, find out what's the process been like, what are they looking for, what type of client, what kind of qualifications, and then you sell back to them like, "Oh, based on what you've said, I've got this perfect candidate, right?" And naturally you mess it up because as salespeople, you go, "Oh, I've got the perfect candidate for you, and they can do the," and you're into the sell, right? But that's part of the process. But it just happened that they had the MD in at the same time, and I think it kind of worked in my favor because they were just like, do you want to do this? Or, look, you've been here a long time, do you want to go home? I'm like, let's go, let's go, let's
That's
keep
awesome.
doing this. This is fun, right? But yeah, it was full on. But I remember going back and saying to my wife, she was like, "Oh, so have they got any good jobs out there?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've got one. I'm working for them now." And it was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, that's, and it's always good to know. Like, I've been to interviews before in my past where you're hired on the spot, and so and that's such a it's more of an affirmation of you already know how good you are. You know that you have this talent. It's not to be braggadocious or you're not trying to be cocky. It's just that you know that you have a talent that you can provide to a business. But like you've learned, and like I learned, is that my talent was being really contained by working for someone else in that capacity. And I'm not like I love working for companies, and if that's what I'm called to, then there's this saying that I like to use, which is called being an intrapreneur, right? Like you could be an entrepreneur and then you could be an intrapreneur, which means that you are running your own business within a business. Like, hey,
Yeah.
that person's taking all the risk, and because they're taking all the risk, but that doesn't mean that I can't operate at full capacity and I can't help this business grow. And so I'm going to take ownership of it. So David, so let's talk about Endurance Zone a little bit more here. So, what were some of like the biggest hurdles? Like when you thought up this idea, can you remember back to some of the big things? Like was
Yeah.
it how am I going to get these contracts with these partners, or how am I going to what is my first client going to look like? Those kind of things. Like what were some of the biggest hurdles you saw early on in your company?
Yeah. So we're very different, right? So to give you a bit of context around Endurance Zone, so we work directly with 400 of the top sports brands in the world. So your Nikes, your Asics, your Fabletics, your Garmin's, and then right the way down into what we call swim lanes. So all your top cycling brands, swimming, triathlon, outdoor. Um, and the first thing that we thought about, right, was if you're building out these reward platforms, white labeled for subscription model businesses, a lot of people will try and build affiliate marketing platforms, right? It's been done a million times before. Here's a 5% discount on Nike, and I'll take a 5% CPA based on that spend, right? But consumers are savvy, right? You can Google this stuff and you can find bigger discounts. So your subscription to wherever, 24-hour fitness or Planet Fitness or whatever it is, are you really feeling valued as a member when they're giving you something which you can find on your own, right? So my original thought was, actually, I'm going to turn this on its head. I'm going to make this risk free for the brands, but I want them to give me something. So I would cold call brands and say, I want to create this membership platform. And initially I focused on cycling because that's what I wanted to do. I was like, I'm not paying full price. I'm going to go do this myself, right? So I'd call a brand and say, look, I want to set up this membership, this tailored niche membership towards cyclists. I want you to give me a discount. I don't want you to pay me any commission. I'm going to promote you to a niche core audience that want your product, but I want you to give me the biggest discount that you can do that nobody else has, and somebody can't Google it and find it.
Mm.
And they go, actually, I really like that concept. So you build this kind of really niche community tailored to cyclists. Okay, risk free for us, right? You don't drive anybody to us. We've not given anything away. You do drive people to us. I'm not paying you a commission, so it wins out.
Yeah.
So it took a kind of a long-term approach, and the hardest thing was that initial trying to convince people like this is going to work, right? How are you going to make money? Don't worry about that. Just give me a discount, right?
Right.
And it took me, and I remember sitting in, I was in Michael Page. I remember sitting there with a load of magazines, right? And I said, right, lunch break, and everyone would be off. going to Nando's or whatever, and I'd sit in the back room with a magazine, flicking through, so I can go, oh, there's a brand, right? Turn that page over, and then the next day I'd go back into that room at lunch break, and I'd be cold calling these guys, going their head office, going, look, I'm the CEO of this big business, right? We're building this big community, and you need to be part of it. But once I got 5 or 6 of those brands to say yes, then legitimately I could say, in the UK, I could be like, yeah, Halfords, who are one of our biggest retailers over here, like, yep, they offer me 10% discount, in store. I have a barcode. Blah. Okay, right. Well, if they're doing it, we'll do it. And then it started to scale from there, right?
Yeah.
Problem 1 was that. Problem 2 was then we were called Discount Sports Network, right? Initially. And a lot of brands were like, really like this concept. Take Nike as an example, but we don't want to be associated with a discount platform. Like we will happily give you a discount, but we don't like the fact you're called discount. And that's kind of where, unfortunately, at that same time, Todd, my co-founder, he actually had a business called Endurance Zone, which was an OTT platform that streamed triathlons and stuff like that. And he approached me and was like, I'd like to take your reward platform for our OTT. And anyway, we spent a good few months chatting and really got like a house on fire. We were like, these two brains together work really well. So I managed to convince him to kind of stop what he was doing and join, the reward side and build this thing with us. And so he quit his job. He came and joined the rewards platform. But we took Endurance Zone because we looked and we were, well, actually, endurance to one person could be taking a walk, right? But endurance to somebody else could be doing an ultra marathon.
Yeah.
So we love that name, and that's kind of where Endurance Zone came. So it was that initial getting brands and then trying to change the name. And as soon as we changed that name, it became more, oh, you're an endurance platform that's kind of building this. Yeah, it makes sense. Go.
Wow.
So it was that kind of shift.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there, and I think that what you just said is super important for those listening didn't catch this. Like, this was a critical moment for you in this pivot that you had to change from discount to Endurance Zone, but then you had other hurdles in there. Like, then you had to create a partnership with someone, and that's a feat in and of itself. And then you're going to take his brand on, so he had to be willing to release his brand into this. So that was those are some big moves, and startups are difficult in and of itself. Partnerships are difficult, but I've met Todd, and I've got the chance to talk to both of you guys, and I would not have known. Honestly would not have known that you guys were not already together coming up with this. I mean, honestly, the synergy you guys have is just surreal. And so I applaud you guys. You guys really did find the right partner, and that is so important for those of you who are thinking about starting up a company. Make sure if you're getting into a partnership, I mean, it's a marriage, and you got to treat it as such. You've got to put time and effort into it. You got to be willing to compromise, and I imagine with as competitive as you are, you're probably like go go go, and maybe Todd is more of like all right, well, let's see how this will work out. Let's figure this out, and but now knowing that he's this triathlon guru, man, I'm totally, my mind is totally blown, because gosh, what I thought of Todd is different.
Yeah. So we're both go, right? But actually, I think I'm not a 22-year-old that's had an idea to start, right? I've got some life experience. I've run teams, multiple locations, etc. So I think what comes with that is that you've got so we have 3 co-founders here, right? And we always describe it as this perfect triangle. So I started Discount Sports Network as it was then, Endurance Zone, what it is now, right? So I founded Endurance Zone, and I managed to convince my brother-in-law, who is our CMO. So I'm this sales operational guy, right? And I get told by our angels now, like, to have a salesperson found a tech company, but actually be super in the detail is quite rare.
Yeah.
But then we have Ed, our CMO, other co-founder, who's ran marketing teams, degree in marketing, with SEO, digital, everything. And then you have Todd on the technology side. So you have this perfect triangle of 3 founders that hold each other accountable, but equally add so much value to the various functions that they have. We were always this is why I say a triangle, right? Because then you're always pointing in the right direction between all 3 of you.
Love that.
And we get together regularly as a threesome to go through ideas, as well as we also have a very strong leadership team, which has grown out. But we have had challenges all the way through. So I said before, affiliate marketing has been around forever. So trying to go to a gym or a governing body and say, everyone gives you that free reward discount platform and then they just cream CPA off of it. Yeah, we don't do that. So I'm going to charge you for it instead. So then you had to trying to convince people that what you'd built was adding so much value and will make you retain and engage your members further because it's so tailored towards that consumer. That was the next challenge. And it equally worked in exactly the same way. Beating the drum, presenting, get one person to go, all right, okay, I see this, let's go for it. And then using them as the example and just building on it.
Yeah.
So,
That's also like with raising capital too, right? Like your first dollar in is always the hardest. And
yeah.
and then it's like, but once you get that first dollar, things just start clicking for people. And it sounds like even in your business, once you got that first deal, then things started coming together for you. And that's so important. And I understand the hesitancy that people have from time to time, but I always find it humorous when someone is hesitant on investing into a company or hesitant in buying into a company when they were at some point in that same seat needing someone to buy into them. And it's like
Yeah.
there's this sometimes you have that I guess that's that thought that people may have, like, hey, I want you to be great but not better than me. And then that competition like kicks in. But
Yeah.
man, so let me ask you this about endurance. And one thing I do want to say though about that, you just unlayered another peel to this onion, because now your tripod here, your triangle is your brother-in-law. So now you have like you like now you got to be ultra nice to your wife because she can relay a message back to your brother, to her brother, and you'd be like, ah, crap, this is
Yeah.
not going to shake out in my favor. But
Yeah, he's 6'7" as well.
oh man, yeah, you're in trouble. That's awesome. Well, you got some advantage. I mean, rugby, I'm sure, teaches you a little bit about ground and pound, so you
Oh
should be.
yeah, it's no competition. No
That's
competition.
right. I love it. I have to meet him one day. I hope to get out to London and meet you guys.
Yeah.
But okay, so what's next? What's on the horizon for Endurance Zone?
Yeah, great question. So our big thing is about rewarding people for being active. We don't like to be called a discount platform. We're not. We have so much planned. Our next iteration is we have a full white label app, which goes live after the summer, which will allow all of our rewards in there. But what it does do is it allows, so take a gym who doesn't have an app, or anybody really, you can join the app through your gym, your governing body. It's customized into the colors of wherever it comes from, but you can integrate your wearable. So we've got integration coming with Apple, Garmin, Fitbit, and Google Health and Strava. So what that means is our thing is about promoting health and getting people moving, but building communities together and engagement. So not our community, but our white label partners community. So what it enable the gym to do is their members can go into the app, they can download it, they can put integrate their wearable. Now, for every minute of activity they do, they'll earn points. So this isn't linked to some kind of crypto or NFT or anything like that. This is just an engagement tool. So now, if you think about a gym, it suddenly gets warm out. People go on the trails instead of going into the gym. So, do you know what? I'm not using my gym. I'll cancel it. But now, for every minute of activity you do in the gym or out of the gym, you're gaining points. Those points can then be used to unlock bigger discounts. But actually, because we sit in this ecosystem of brands and Facebook, Google, it makes it so hard to actually, or so expensive to hit that tailored consumer you want. We get to turn around and say, hey, Nike, we have a gym here with 2.2 million users in it. We want to run a competition so they can use their points to unlock an entrance into a competition to win 10 free pairs of Vaporflies.
Wow.
Do you want to be involved? It drives engagement for them. They get access to the consumer. But now actually you're thinking about canceling your membership, and then it's all of a sudden, oh, actually I've got 500 points for that run I did at the weekend with my buddies. I'm now going to enter this competition to win a pair of Nikes. Then that person wins that Nike, right? And then the gym gets to go, hey, Steve in Nashville just won a pair of new Nikes. for being active. Kudos. Jane up in Washington's just won that, and all of a sudden, as a consumer, you're gamifying it, right? And you're enjoying it because you're being rewarded by your membership, whatever it is, just for being active. And then you can the gym can start to use that data from the wearable to say, actually, how many people are doing running classes? How many people are doing, how many people are running? How many people are cycling? And then start to pull those people in and say, hey, we're launching a new spin class for you cyclists, or hey, we're going to put on a competition to reward you even for being out on the trails. So it's all about that engagement piece. We then have later in the year, we're building in that AI. So AI is a really big keyword at the moment, right? And people don't really know how to use it. But for us, we can very much target that into, we want to know that, Scott goes to the gym, and actually what you do at the gym is you do spin classes. And at weekends, you go for a bike ride, right? So we can start to use that and start to put benefits and rewards in front of you that are tailored to you. So we always use this analogy that Strava is this 10-ton gorilla, but they got a lot wrong and they're doing a lot wrong, right?
Right.
So they'll send you an email and say, hey, Scott, looks like you've done 1,000 miles on your bike. Kudos, well done. What we want to do is go, hey, Scott, it looks like you've done 1,000 miles on your bike. You're probably due a new set of tires. Don't forget you get 20% off Goodyear and Pirelli through your membership with 24-hour fitness.
Love that.
So all of a sudden you're like, oh, John, I am. Or it could be nutrition. It could be New York road runners. It's like, hey, it looks like you've done training really hard. You've done 500 miles. Don't forget to keep your nutrition on point. Here's our top 3 recommended discounts through your membership with X.
Yeah.
So it's taking that and tailoring it towards the individual, and we'll get that and use that data in the right way to drive that activity and make people healthy. And that's the journey over the next 12 months.
Yeah, man, this is awesome because it's like you're part of this ecosystem that's promoting health and wellness. I mean, like you can't go wrong with that. Like you're not promoting to go eat burgers, or you're trying to down some hot dogs. I'm not saying that those are bad. I mean, go enjoy them if you want, but you're promoting this wellness for people. We learned a lot in COVID, like how important is Mother Nature, right? Like how important it is to get out and be healthy. The healthier you are, the more likely we are to survive. So it's like I just think this is such a great concept. It's such a great product and company. And David, man, I could literally talk to you for hours. This show can keep going on and on, but I do need to start pulling this to a conclusion. But David, tell me, what is, like, for those who are going to listen to this and see this on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify, what's a perfect client for you right now? Who's someone that you're seeking after that, could potentially listen to this and come on board your platform?
It's really hard. If you'd asked me maybe a year ago, I would have said it's a gym or a governing body, right? Or a mass participation event. But what we're realizing is actually post-COVID, as you said, people are starting to put their health and wellness in front of anything else, right? So organizations, companies are now starting to scrap their employee benefits, Papa John's Pizza, Starbucks, and saying, do you know what? Here's a healthy platform that drives activity and makes you healthier, and a healthier workforce is always good. So it's anybody that has a community of people that fits within that sort of sports space. So if you think about gyms, governing bodies, mass participation events, subscription model, Weight Watchers, all these things that people are trying to incentivize people to move more, that's our ideal client. But at the same time, if you have a community of people that you're trying to engage in a healthy way and promote movement, then we want to hear from you, right? We have a platform that enables you to do that. I mean, I mentioned earlier, we have NHL and Major League Baseball teams, right? You were mentioning about hot dogs. Yeah, perfect, right? So our platform's completely adaptable. You can take rewards out, you can add your own in, and these teams are using it as a way to offer healthy benefits and say, hey, we do care about our community. But equally, because they can build their own rewards in, they build out a swim lane that says, game day offers, and they can commercialize that and say, hey, Steve's Pizza Place can have a 10% discount off in there, and Joe's hot dog stand can be in there, and change it every single game, which then again drives the community around the stadium, around that team, while still also promoting. A year ago, I never would have thought, oh yeah, Major League Baseball, of course, why not? But it just happens that the platform's so agile and adaptable that it can fit in multiple different sectors. But ideal client for us is anybody that cares about their community and wants to find a way to retain and engage them in a healthy way.
We got to get you plugged in like with hospitals, man. What a great opportunity for hospitals to step in and take control of their brand and yet offer, something great for, people and guests that are in there. However, I can go on and on about how, big pharma doesn't want people to get healthy. They like them to stay on medicine. So, it's like we won't go there, but there is a struggle there. But I think hospitals, man, should buy this up in a heartbeat.
You're not wrong, So we have something over here run by UK Active, which is, all our governing bodies, Sport England, professional teams feed into this. And it basically sits as a layer above the industry that helps the industry make strategic decisions, whether that's digital transformation, health, rewards, loyalty, whatever it is. So we power this year National Fitness Day. So we're expecting 4.5 million people to come into our platform, integrate their wearable. The good thing with that is we feed that data back to UK Active that can then actually make informed decisions about, on this day, the UK did this, they did that, this form of modality, X amount were using wearable, X weren't, X went for a run. And they can feed that in, and then that feeds into the health service. So we can get to say, X amount of people were active on this day. How do we now incrementally get more people active, or those people active, throughout the rest of the year? And it all feeds into our sort of NHS, because in this country, our NHS is just overwhelmed. Our hospitals are overwhelmed with people.
They are,
and we need to, so I'm with you on that. If you've got any links into hospitals, I'll listen.
Yeah, well, we'll talk more offline on that for sure. But David, now is the time that I start concluding this, like I said, but before we do that, we go into what I like to call our pick your poison moment. This is when I'm going to ask you to pick between, or which would you rather. We're going to cue up some music for this, and that way we can get this rolling. But David, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been excellent and so much information here. So, all right. So you ready? You ready for this?
Come at me. I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. I already know the answer to this. All right. Get a tattoo of a 6-pack of beer on your abdomen, or have your cell phone only be able to charge up to 10%.
Oh, right. I'm actually going to push this the other way. You said you already know the answer to this.
Yeah.
What do you think it is?
Oh, man. Well, what I like, my cell phone is a lifeline, so I would have to go and just get the tattoo. I mean, I'm all tatted up anyway, so I'm just gonna have to go with that. So.
Yeah, so I couldn't survive on 10% at all.
Yeah, no, man, it would be.
You can cover that, and plus I haven't got the 6-pack, so at least I've got one.
Well, you would then. You have a 6-pack of beer. I mean, that's why not. Yeah. All right. Well, this one may be easy for you though. Okay, so all right, approach every old person you see, steal their cane, and run away laughing. That's horrible. All right. Or get tackled by an NFL linebacker running at full speed. Ooh, that's brutal.
To be honest with you, NFL players are wimps. So.
No.
I would take the NFL player any day of the week. I mean, any rugby player that converts over to the NFL tears you guys apart, right? The shoulder pads, the helmet, what a bunch of whips.
Well, look, my guest in like 2 shows from now is an NFL player. That's great. I may have to get you in as like a special guest on that show. That'd be great. That'd be hilarious.
Nervous now. We did do an event at the Pro Football Hall of Fame a few years ago, a couple of years back, for Peyton Manning's enshrinement. And saying that, we had Terrell Davis on our stand and stuff, and actually, I'm like, they are pretty big, actually.
Yeah. Hey, they got a lot of height.
Quickly.
They got a lot of height, that's for sure. Well, look, man, that was awesome. So the answer to that was you would take a hit, right?
100%.
We got to protect our senior citizens, elderly. Like, why would we take? At least if we're gonna take the cane, we shouldn't laugh about it. But I'm just kidding. That's horrible. Okay, so look, man, great show. Thanks so much. We're gonna cue up our final goodbye here, music, and I'm just gonna rattle off a couple of things about Magazine Jukebox here. For those of you who don't know, our sponsor, Magazine Jukebox, is a digital magazine rack for commercial spaces. If you have a commercial space, kind of like what David was talking about here, if you have people in a waiting area, in this case, we're targeting those who are being either waiting in leisure or waiting being forced to wait. Give them something to entertain themselves with the digital magazine. Scan a code. Don't have to give any personal information if you don't want to, and you don't have to download an app in this case. So thank you, Magazine Jukebox. Thank you, David, and Endurance Zone. We will post all your socials. We'll get it out there for you. And, man, this has been an awesome show. So thank you very much.
Man, pleasure. I've enjoyed it.
All right, brother. Thanks. See you guys.
Bye.